God, no, it's about this team. It's about the organization, the fan base, the city. I mean, when we got back from the Cub game, there were dozens of fans in our parking lot, waiting for us to just say hello and congratulations. I mean, walking down the street, you get high fives, you get, you could just tell in the fans' faces how excited they are for this. So I think that's what makes this so special is, you've delivered for a fan base that's been waiting for this for a long time.
In 2012, this was a team that's far from 500. You had a decision to make. You could have left. Why did you want to stay?
For this reason right here. I think I'd like to consider myself a loyal person, but on top of that, I had faith in what I thought this organization was capable of doing. I had, faith in Sandy in the front office that, they would put this type of team on the field. And I knew that very early on in this process, I knew that if you were to go somewhere else and, maybe win right away, it wouldn't have felt nearly as good or nearly as satisfying as being able to do it here, for a team that I grew up rooting for a team that drafted me when I was 18 years old, almost like a second family for me. I wouldn't have this feeling now, being able to accomplish this somewhere else.
You said you had faith that Sandy and the organization were taking the right steps and doing it. What gave you that faith? I mean, this is a team that hadn't been 500 since 08. What made you believe now that this was going to happen?
I think part of it is just, the optimistic part of me. I think that I'd like to think that I'm a glass half full type guy where I'm always optimistic. But early on in the process, when we started talking about an extension, Sandy laid out Jacob deGrom, laid out Noah Syndergaard, Stephen, these names were mentioned, and, I think that probably both Sandy and I are, probably more so Sandy because he knew about them way before me, but, we're probably a little surprised with how good they turned out, but we knew we had some great power arms, in our minor leagues, and I've been around long enough to know that the quickest way to get an organization turned around is through young starting pitching, and we have plenty of that.
Were you worried at all in June or July that the back was going to be something that was going to knock you out for the rest of the season or something serious or anything like that?
I try not to think about it too much like that. I tried to challenge myself on a daily basis with the rehab. I always planned and, was confident in my own mind that I was going to be able to do whatever it took to get back. But yeah, I mean, there were days where I woke up where, it was bothering me, and then there was bothersome to do some everyday things, and that worried me. But again, the optimistic side of me always said, just keep pushing, just keep doing what the doctors, what the therapists tell you to do, and things will work out in your favor. So thankfully, up to this point, they have.
How important was the talk with Mattingly to just instill confidence in you that you could overcome it?
Yeah, I've said it all along that, when the doctor kind of first gives you the diagnosis, I've said this before, is the first thing he says is just don't Google it, and the first thing I do is Google it, and you see different athletes from different sports that this has forced them into an early retirement. So of course, you spend a couple days moping around, kind of feeling sorry for yourself, but then you have a decision to make. Is it, do I continue to do this and whine and moan, or do you do everything you can to get back? And I'm glad I chose the second option. And I think having been through the rehab that I went through, and when the Mets came to LA, speaking with Don Mattingly, I think more than anything, because I knew the exercises that I had to do, I knew the routine that I had to go through on a daily basis, but what I didn't have was kind of a peace of mind of talking to somebody that had been through this and has succeeded through it. So, getting that peace of mind I thought was important to me, probably, emotionally, on top of the, rehab and physically.
The other night when you clinched, you kept saying it's the World Series. Like you said, that here now, have that passion. What is this like? I mean,
this is,
hit you?
Yeah, this is pretty surreal. I mean, you're preparing, like it's a baseball game, but you can't help to, smile when, you see the patches or you see the logos or, you go out for a workout and you see the banners, the World Series banners. I mean, I think that, I think that you're trying to prepare physically and baseball-wise like it's another game, but, mentally and I think emotionally, you can't help but to enjoy, seeing the New York Mets logo right next to a World Series logo.